Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Okay, so for today's video, just to warn you in advance, it is not going to be an unboxing and full review. If anything, I just want to provide a color comparison between the first release figure and the second release figure. This will help you decide if you need the newer figure that was released, or if you don't have either of the figures, this will help you decide which version of the armored Batman is best for you. Alright, so to begin, the figure on our left was the first release of the action figure. As you can see here, the armor is a lot darker. It's much more muted in its colors. So whereas Batman is traditionally gray and black, for his much more iconic color costume, this one, it's kind of retaining that, but instead of black, it's a very, very dark, almost like charcoal gray for his helmet and his body armor. His under armor is a light gray, and his belt is kind of like a medium, almost brownish gray. Now, in comparison with the newest release, which is known as the Blue Edition, this one here is a lot brighter in its color scheme. As you can see, it's a much more like, I want to say like a shiny, not necessarily a metallic blue, but it's kind of borderlines on a metallic, almost candy-like blue. My camera's not capturing it perfectly, but when you see this in person, you'll kind of know what I mean. It's a much vibrant color, it's a lot richer. And whereas the other one has a gray, brownish colored belt, the newest release has a somewhat muted yellow for the utility belt on Batman. So both of them, both figures, how do I put this? Both figures are great to begin with. This one was excellent. I didn't pick this one up initially just because for me it looked awesome, the sculpting was great and all that, but it didn't hold a candle to the actual appearance in the comic book. Like, I'm not 100% sure if this is supposed to be more so based off of Frank Miller's graphic novel or maybe even the animated adaptation. Because when I saw this, I know what it is. It's Armored Batman, but it doesn't look like the Frank Miller version of Armored Batman. And when I saw the promotional photos for the repaint, which is here, this one felt a little bit closer to the Frank Miller version from the graphic novel. But the armor still isn't as accurate as I'd like. I'm not normally a stickler for accuracy, but The Dark Knight Returns is one of my favorite graphic novels, and for me, it's something where I want like a near perfect version of the character I see in the graphic novel. Mattel has dabbled in The Dark Knight Returns. They have a version of that figure, and I want to say I think DC Essentials, DC Icons, or whatever they call themselves. I think back in the day, they might have also produced an Armored Batman. So for me, I passed up on the first release. The armor wasn't accurate. The colors were too dark. But the repaint was enough to like pull me in. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm on board. I kind of like this color scheme. It looks a little bit closer to what I'm familiar with. So for me anyways, I jumped on board and I got this. And then immediately when I got home, I'm like, I kind of regretted that I passed up on the first one, because I kind of feel like I can't appreciate this fully unless I have the first release. It's just how my sick brain works. So then the other day I was on Amazon and I'm like, I want to get the first release, but I don't want to pay full price. And then I remember that in the Amazon listings, they also offer Amazon Warehouse, where you could purchase an item that might have been previously returned, or there might have been some damage to the packaging. And this figure normally retails for, I believe, $19.99. And when I found it on Amazon Warehouse, it was listed like I think for like $12.98. So it was like, I'm like saving myself $7, and I'm like, you know what, I'll just pull the trigger on that. And when I got this in the mail, it looked perfectly fine until I flipped the box over. And I don't know what kind of weird world we live in or what kind of sicko does this, but apparently the damage to the box was that someone cut out the graphic. I have no idea why you would do that. It's not like the image is all that great to begin with. It's essentially a photograph of a Batman figure. So it boggles my mind. but at least I bought this figure, you know, for cheap. You know, something I didn't want at first, but having the repaint kind of suckered me into wanting to get this one. And I did save money, but at the same time, I don't know why this was wrecked like it was. You know, if anything, I thought the damage to the box would have been, you know, like maybe the J-hook was ripped off or something. And it says right here, too, this is like proof that it's either a returned or damaged item. It says Amazon. Thanks to you, this product has a second life. We appreciate it. Amazon Warehouse, Amazon Renewed. Yeah, so if you ever go on Amazon, look under the separate listings where a list of third parties. Every now and then you might find an Amazon Warehouse listing where it's actually provided by Amazon, and the only thing is the item might be discounted because maybe it was damaged, you know, much like we see here. Alright, so I just went off on a weird tangent right now, but back to the color comparison. Alright, so which figure is best for you? Like I said, I passed up on this one. The color scheme's too dark, and it didn't help that, you know, as great as a sculpt as this is, it's not, at least to me, accurate to what was represented in the graphic novel. This one shares the same sculpt, which is inaccurate, but at the same time, I feel like this color scheme works better for how I remember the armored Batman in The Dark Knight Returns. It's almost like that argument between the old school vintage OG Empire Strikes Back Han Solo in his Hoth outfit. You know, on one camp, there's a lot of people that believe that in the movie, Han Solo's Hoth jacket is actually blue. And on another camp, there's a group of people that believe Han Solo's Hoth jacket is brown. And the whole argument stems from the fact that when we were little in the 80s, the Star Wars Kenner, Han Solo in the Hoth outfit, you know, that figure's jacket was blue. But if you refer to like the production art and like the still photography, you know, his jacket was clearly brown. But Kenner kind of caved in, and they wanted to make everyone happy. So back during, I think, might have been like the Legacy collection or maybe one of the later Power of the Force collections, they actually produced two versions of the Han Solo figure, one in the brown jacket and one in the blue jacket. So I kind of felt like this was a similar case, although I don't think anyone's arguing. I think, you know, for the most part, McFarlane, they want us to double dip in their figures, and, you know, that's why they offer us the repaints or the unmasked versions. They offered this figure, and I figured they thought that most people would buy it because it looks awesome, which it does. But then there's crazy people like me who in the back of their head, they'll pick this apart and go, that's not accurate. You know, it's not accurate with the sculpting. It's not accurate with the color scheme. And then they'll give us this, whereas the color scheme is more actually true to the comic book, kind of. And this was enough to pull me in. So once I bought this, all of a sudden I felt like I needed this, and I have both of them. But to settle the little argument in my head of which one I actually need or which one I think is more accurate, we have this. This is the Batman Dark Knight Returns graphic novel. This is my childhood graphic novel. This was actually this wasn't the first print. This was actually one of the later ones. I believe this was the 5th print. Yeah, this was the 5th printing of the book, as you can see right there. And this was printed up back in copyright 1986. So this is very old. And so for me, in my head, I'm going to settle the argument of which figure is actually more accurate. You know, this one on the left or this one on the right. Both of them, I don't think, look like the costume at all. But we'll see. Alright, so here we are. Batman, Superman, the very legendary fight in The Dark Knight Returns. There's Superman. He's tossing over the Batmobile. He rips it open. There's Carrie Kelly. There's Superman. Let's get to the next page. And then we see Batman. Here's Batman. He's hooked up to the lamppost because he's drawing all the electricity from it. And, alright, so this is where it gets interesting. Alright, because I was looking at this and it was making me kind of nuts. So, in some ways, the first version's color scheme, which I thought was inaccurate, is somewhat accurate in terms of the body armor. So the body armor here is clearly a darker color, like that dark charcoal gray, like I was pointing out earlier. And then, but the thing that's different is that this one has the light yellow utility belt. This one has a gray one. So for the correct utility belt, this one has the correct utility belt, the repaint. Now this one has a light blue cape. This one has the dark charcoal cape. This one has, it's not necessarily light blue, but this one has a blue cape. So right now, as it stands, color-wise, none of these figures are accurate. The only way you can make a semi-accurate one in terms of the color scheme is that you'd have to take the cape from this guy and the utility belt from this guy and put it on this guy over here. So neither of these Dark Knights are actually accurate in terms of their colors. Alright, it's like I said, this is me and my weird crazy brain trying to pick this apart. There's a lot of embellishment here. There's a lot of additional details that, you know, aren't necessarily present in the comic book, but that's okay. I could kind of forgive that because they're kind of going for realism here. You know, you want this to blend in with the rest of your figs. I thought it would have been nice if they at least gave Batman the gun. You know, they didn't give him the gun here, but you know, with the DC Multiverse figures, we're not getting any guns anymore, so that kind of sucks. So yeah, none of these figures are completely accurate to what's in the actual comic book. So, like I said, you know, if you want one that's close to being accurate in the comic book, you would need to take this body, but grab this guy's belt and this guy's cape, and you get a little bit something closer to what's actually portrayed in the comic book. Or if you're like me and you just want something that actually looks like what it looks like in the comic book, you get to settle on this, and the argument in my head's done with. This is the old Mattel Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman. So if you want one that's pretty true to form in terms of what's portrayed in the comic book, this is it. It's as close as you can get to Frank Miller's rendition of the Armored Batman. It looks as silly as Frank Miller's. The proportions are crazy. He has the giant head, the super enormous chest, and he looks like a giant block. But that's how he's portrayed in the comic. So if you want something more accurate, this older version is the way to go. And as you can see, mine's all covered in dust, so it's disgusting. So yeah, weird video. Like I said, this wasn't a normal review. I just wanted to provide like a comparison. So if you were like me and if you didn't grab the first release, you know, the second release, the repaint, piqued my interest enough that I wanted to buy it. But, you know, joke's on me. In the end, I ended up with both of them anyways because I'm crazy in the head. And to make matters worse, I got the weird one where someone, apparently some crazy person, felt the need to just remove, you know, the image here. I don't know why they would do that. It's bizarre. It escapes me, like what goes through someone's sick mind that all they want is this friggin' photo of the action figure of Batman. All right, with that being said, I feel like I have to apologize. I don't want to feel like you guys got gypped out of a video. Like I said, I didn't want to take these out and review them because they've been out for a while. There's tons of reviews out there. If anything, I just wanted to provide color comparison, just so you know which Batman's best for you. Ideally, you know, you have to mix and match pieces to get the perfect one. Or if you don't care which brand your Batman comes from, just cave in and get the old Mattel Dark Knight one. So, alright, once again, my name is Lou. Thanks for checking this out, I think. Hope you found it somewhat informative. So until the next video, you know, I'll see you around, and I'll talk to you later. Alright, take care.